Hi guys, and welcome to Odds on UEFA qualifications for the World Cup. Another match day in the middle of the week, the last one in this international break. So let's analyze the best 10 games, of course, with Dani Fisichella and with you. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and if you like our videos, don't forget, click on the like, subscribe, and click on the bell to get notifications. And now, let's go on with the show. Last round of fixtures in the UEFA qualifications for the World Cup. We saw some surprises again in the weekend, but overall, Dani, we could make some money out of your tips. How are you, Dani?
Very well, richer than a week ago. 6 out of 10, not a bad score. But you know, this is. I think there are gonna be more surprises now on game day 6 because 3 fixtures in a row, a lot of changes, a very demanding schedule, a lot of travels, fixture congestions, and already some teams are pretty much out of the next World Cup.
So tell me if in the first one we are going to see surprises. We are going to start analyzing the Group A. Here we have Serbia and Portugal with 10 points. And Portugal, they are traveling to Baku to play against Azerbaijan. Of course, a weak team, only 1 point, the one obtained against Ireland. But Portugal, they are not great in this qualification round. They could rest it in the weekend. At least they didn't play an official game. They played a friendly game. But Dani, we saw them struggling against Ireland, and overall, they are not great again in this qualification round. Do you see trouble here for Portugal?
I don't think trouble as such in terms of defeating or dropping points, but I can't see a great game and exciting games from Portugal, also because they miss Ronaldo, suspended. He's already in Manchester taking selfies under the sun. So they beat Qatar 3-1 in a friendly, pretty meaningless, very disappointing against Ireland, Portugal. Lack of precision in the passes, in the movement. They look sluggish, and they only needed, in the end, 2 headers from Ronaldo to rescue the 3 point. I think Portugal played better in the second half once Adrian Silva joined in the attack. I think they need a centre forward there. Jota is not providing the same presence in the area, especially when Ronaldo drifts on the left too much. By the way, Adrian Silva scored against Qatar. I think he's going to have a good season this season again for Leipzig. Fernando Santos in the end put Gonzalo Guedes from Valencia and João Mario in the second half to have more pressure, to put more crosses in the box. In the end, the things paid off because they score from through crosses, but at the back they were in trouble. I saw Pepe struggling a lot against Adamida and Connolly from Ireland, so I'm sure they need to rejuvenate the team a little bit. Azerbaijan, great point in Ireland. I don't think they even hoped to get a point there. They are ranked 112th in the world, yet they ended Ireland's hope to qualify for the World Cup. Ireland created a lot of chances, couldn't convert them, but what Azerbaijan did, they deflated them. They brought the rhythm of the game slow with composed passes, slow passes, very confident, So a great point for them. Now they play at home, no clean sheet in the last 8 for Azerbaijan. In the reverse fixture though, it was only 1-0 to Portugal thanks to an own goal. So I think Azerbaijan often get beaten, but they don't get thrashed. And they rarely concede more than 2 goals. The last time was in June 2019, almost a year and a half ago. I'm going to be cautious with this one. Under 3 goals, 1.98. So if there are 3 goals, you get your money back. Less than 3 goals, you're winning 198.
I thought you were going for Asian handicap plus something for Azerbaijan also, in the really high odds for Azerbaijan. This is another option in case they are not beaten by many goals. If someone wants to check that market, then let's go to Ireland, Serbia, because Serbia, they are challenging the first position of Portugal, 10 points so far. They were able to draw against Portugal, for instance. They thrashed Luxembourg with Mitrovic, the star, scoring a brace, and now they should win in Dublin. Dani, we already mentioned how poor Ireland is in this qualification round. Remember that they even lost at home against Luxembourg.
And, under Stephen Kenny, things are simply not working, or maybe not just yet. Only one win in 16 games, and that was in a friendly against Andorra. 15 games without a win. So, against Azerbaijan, they went out very attacking, completely the opposite of what they did in Portugal, obviously. 3 forwards that, they were all part of the under-21 team that the same Kenny managed back in the years. Parrott, Connolly, Adamida. So very young team, but inexperienced. They miss the chances. They're not ruthless in front of goal, and then that in the end is costing them a lot of points. Also against Portugal, they had the chance to make it 2-0 and close the game. Connolly missed a couple of sitters, but it's a young team. Things can only improve for Ireland if Stephen Kenny is given the time. He's launching a lot of young players. Gavin Bazzuno, 19 years old, the keeper, had a good game against Portugal. That must be said. But with Ireland, sometimes I think they do well only in those games when they can sit deep and break on the counter. So only when there is almost a Fortapash assault against their goals. But when they need to dominate possession, create chances, so far they've been disappointing. We were talking about the lack of scoring. Score only 7 in the last 15 games. Now, 4 of them have been scored by defenders. So that's already, is an alarm. Duffy scored 2. 5 of these 7 goals, they were scored inside the last 5 minutes of the games. So they often concede early and then score late. So there isn't much there, and they're gonna play a Serbian team managed by one of the greatest of the 90s, Dragan Pixi Stojkovic. He wants to play beautiful football, and he's managing it, I think, because results are on his side. They only lost 1 in the last 7, a friendly to Japan. They won comfortably by the weekend. He's got a lot of talents, especially up front. Yes, Mitrovic, but they got Vlahovic as well, who can come in. The midfielder, a lot of quality: Milinkovic, Savic, Kostic, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone else. So a lot of talents there. Great odds for Serbia to win, 226. Go for it.
Then let's go to another interesting group, Group F, starting with Austria, Scotland. Here they must win at least to challenge the second spot that right now is in power of a surprising Israel. And we already said on Friday, Danny, be careful with the trip to Haifa, in this case for Austria. Oh my God, they were thrashed 5-2, and now again they are really risking to go to the World Cup after the good Euro. They must win this game against Scotland, but we know that Scotland, they are not as easy as they should be. They got a suffer victory 1-0 against Moldova, and before they were defeated 2-0 against Denmark. If you fancy Austria, the odds are not bad actually, especially because they are playing at home, 1.9.
A must win for Scotland, for Austria and for Scotland as well. But for Austria was the worst performance under the management of Franco Foda in the last couple of years. They conceded many goals against Israel from stupid, poor defensive mistakes. Let's not forget also in these qualifiers, they also conceded 4 against Denmark. It is a team that lately is not keeping many clean sheets, whereas before that was their strong point. Not very spectacular side, Austria, but at least they were keeping tight and neat at the back. Now, if they start conceding for a team that also in these qualifiers misses Sabitzer, one of the best players, they also had Baumgartner injured, out of a sudden they look very, very fragile. So I haven't got great feelings for Austria to see them in the next World Cup. However, they face Scotland, and Scotland have an issue with scoring. They lack goals. They only scored 2 in the last 5 games. And unfortunately, with the Scottish team, it takes them a lot of efforts, a lot of chances before scoring goals. I was looking at interesting stats. In the past 5 fixtures, they have scored only 2 goals from 62 attempts. So the good news is that they get there, they create chances, they are up with the top teams in terms of chances created, the ball in the box, they just don't convert them. And there was the same story against Moldova. Very nervy win, only 1-0 against a side that is 175th in the world. They missed so many good chances. First 45 minutes, they were okay. then they were disjointed in the second half, and yes, they dominated the midfielder. Billy Gilmour was excellent. Lyndon Dykes scores again for club and country so far this season, but are they gonna score enough to progress and to make into the World Cup, when they have to face tough opposition? Let's not forget they were outclassed by Denmark earlier in these qualifying rounds. But because the way Austria is looking, and I see there is a very good double chance here, X2 Scotland, so either a draw or a win for Scotland in Vienna, 2-10.
Then the top two teams in this group are Denmark and Israel. Denmark, all victories, 15 points. Israel, 10 points. And the good thing for both is that they are scoring a lot. 17 goals scored by Denmark, 14 for Israel. So, Danny, of course, Denmark is big favorite here, but perhaps we can see goals, especially seeing how Israel is performing lately. And one interesting player, Sahavi, the player now in PSV, 5 goals in this international break for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Zahavi and Dabur as well. They're having great seasons so far. 17 goals in the last 6 games for both of them. So yes, Ruttensteiner team scores a lot, but they could be the surprise package of this group. They are very attacking minded. Let's not forget though, in the reverse fixture they lost 2-0 to Denmark, so that could tell you that there is a bit of difference in class with these two teams, and now they play in Denmark. And Denmark, they basically rested players because they had to play Ferrer. They made 9 changes to the teams that beat Scotland, especially midfielders. So there were a lot of youngsters playing. And actually, they only scored once Ferrer were reduced to 10 men thanks to wind. So, at the end, they had to resort to a little bit experience to come away with the 3 points. But surely they didn't suffer too much. So they have the advantage of being a little bit more rested. Israel, careful when they travel because they only lost 1 of the last 6 away games. Actually, they won 4. And because both teams are very attacking minded, I said that before also with Denmark, is one of the teams that create more chances, that always ends the actions with a cross or a shot, both to score. 250 seems to me a great odd.
For me as well, I completely agree. Faroe Island, Denmark, that's a derby, actually. Yes. Then let's move on to Group D. Here we have France on top of the group and Finland. They are second and they are playing together, but Finland, they have 5 points, so 4 less than France, but 2 games in hand. And we are saying, Danny, along this week that we expected or we hoped that the Shams men were going to react after the disappointment of the Euros, but this is not happening. 2 draws against Bosnia at home and in the weekend against Ukraine away, whereas Finland, the last game was a victory against Kazakhstan with Pojampalo scoring the winner. That's why they are second in this very tight group. So do you expect France to react in this third match?
They must do, otherwise it's real crisis for them. And I know if these champs might change formation, because what he's put on the pitch in the last 2 games, it didn't quite work. France, it is really complacent. They're almost half asleep. I watched the game against Ukraine. They almost need somebody to shake them off after 25 minutes and say, hey, by the way, look, the game started. You need to concentrate a little bit more. They almost wait to concede before they start playing. In fact, against Ukraine, they conceded again, goal from Shaparenko. 5th consecutive time they concede the opener under the Champ. That's a negative record. I think also some of the players were out of position. You had Griezmann playing as a number 10, Coman playing as second striker, then Martial was drifting from the center forward position into the right, so they weren't probably put together. Then it got better when Benzema, who's not fully fit, came on, so they improved. In the end, they managed to equalize with Martial, scored only his 2nd goal in 29 appearances for France, so I'm not sure he's going to start against Finland when they desperately need goals. Pogba didn't have a great game, was very nervous. In the end, they hit the post with Diaby, but I think 1-1 was the fair result with Ukraine. And they play a Finland team that we know is not spectacular. We saw it at the Euros. They're very tight, compact. They don't create many chances. They make it hard for oppositions to score. They won at the weekend, and they come from after a 0-0 against Wales in a friendly. So usually with Finland is 1-0, 0-0, 2-1, but it's quite tight games. In fact, they only scored 2 in the last 5 games, conceded 5 goals, lost the last 3 away games. So I think a win for France is definitely on the card. You need to consider it, but considering the recent struggles of the sham teams, Finland Asian handicap +2, 1.92. So if France wins 1-0, 2-1 with 1 goal margin, you're winning 192. If France wins with 2 goals margin, you get your money back.
Then let's move on to Group G, and here we have a very important game, Netherlands-Turkey, especially after Netherlands missing some major tournaments and having a complicated group. This is a must win also for Van Gaal's men, because if they beat Turkey, they come on top of the group after a difficult start. Remember that they lost 4-2 in Istanbul in the reverse fixture, but Danny, the things can be positive for Van Gaal after the first game at home, 4-0 victory against Montenegro. Depay scored a brace. Remember that before they drew against Norway, so they are having a tough international break actually after these 3 games, whereas Turkey is still on top. They beat, of course, Gibraltar in the weekend 0-3.
Well, you say of course, but they had them issues, even against Gibraltar. They missed the penalty after 2 minutes. Then the first half was goalless, was 0-0. Yeah. Gibraltar sat deeper and deeper and deeper. In the second half, Senol Gunes had to put on the most experienced player, Çalhanoğlu, Karaman, Dervisoglu, and they unlocked the game. The game changed. Let's not forget, this is a Turkey team, is very young. Very few players are more than 26 years old. Some of them, actually, they even lack game time in their own clubs. If you took Aya, the center back from Sassuolo, only has played 1 minute so far in the season, and he's a starter in the national team. Demiral, the other center back, only played 1 game for Atalanta, still needs to get to grip with the new team. So it's a Turkey team that lacks experience, that is growing, but it's got mistakes on it. Same as the Netherlands, deserved win, of course, against Montenegro, but Montenegro had their chances due to some sloppy defending. And this is the sloppy Netherlands we saw in the Euros as well, when they push too high at the pitch. They don't keep a straight line. They allow runners from midfielder. So against Montenegro, there was no Van Dijk. He's been given a rest, so he will play this one. A debut for Tarel Malacia from Feyenoord, the left back. The good fact is that they kept a clean sheet, 4th clean sheet in 7 games. But these clean sheets often came against small teams. Other good news for Netherlands is that Depay, he keeps scoring. It's the 9th goal in 9 games so far this season. Now he's got 30 for his country. So these are teams that both have mistakes in them at the back. They can switch off sometimes, but they can score goals. So, both to score 205 seems a good odds to me.
Then from this very interesting game with Van Gaal in charge of the new Orange, let's go to Iceland, Germany. We saw Flick's men thrashing Armenia 6-0 after the, not great debut, we can say, against Liechtenstein. They had a great home game, and now they face Iceland. Danny, they stopped North Macedonia 2-2 after losing before. They were losing in the game 0-2. So here, Iceland is a team that they actually struggle a lot to score. Perhaps we can see Germany winning 2-0 in this important game, because after the victory against Armenia, Germany, as we all expected, they are topping their group with 12 points.
They're top of the group. They will stay top of the group. They done it in style. Finally, we saw Germany clicking. You know, they played at home in Stuttgart against the home crowd. Flick said they played with joy in the end in front of the home crowd. And, you know, he made 6 changes to the team that beat Liechtenstein, so he can still finding, you know, the best player for the best position, but he's got a lot of depth in his squad, bringing young players in as well. They could have scored more goals in the end. It could have been more than 6-0. I was wrong in my prediction. I said Armenia is an handicap +3. Well, that was already gone after 40 minutes. But, you know, also Flick could be pleased. Back-to-back clean sheets. Okay, it was only Armenia and Liechtenstein, but they conceded in every one of the last 7 games under Joachim Löw. So yes, your tips, Germany to win 2-0 is what I'm gonna follow as well. Iceland, in the end, they show some pride against North Macedonia. They were 2-0 down, managed to score the 2-2. By the way, Gudjonsson's son scored. The manager is Gudjonsson. Gudjonsson himself, you remember, he once came on for his dad. So, you know, it's all the Gudjonsson came in. They put himself on the pitch, but, you know, well done to them. Bjarnason from Iceland in the very last minute cleared off the line an effort from North Macedonia, so they could have even lost in the last minute. They're very leaky at the back, conceded 14 in the last 8. Yes, Germany to win in style, Germany to win 2-0, 195.
Actually, Johnson's son, I think he plays for Real Madrid. Actually,
there you go.
Yeah, and scored a beauty, as you said. Then also on Wednesday we have Poland, England. This is the most difficult trip and game for England in this qualification round. This is another team that will play for sure the Euro. They will finish first in this group, especially if they get a point at least in Warsaw. We saw many changes as we expected in their victory 4-0 against Andorra, but remember that earlier in this international break they thrashed Hungary 0-4 in style, whereas Poland, Dani, still Lewandowski, keep scoring and scoring goals with the national team. Of course, it was with San Marino in this case too, but remember that also before he scored the opener against Albania. You see trouble here for England, seeing that, remember, in the reverse fixture was a 2-1 victory, a close one, and a suffer one for England.
He was, and there was no Lewandowski back then because he was injured. There could be troubles in the sense that, you know, it's the last game of the 3 fixtures. Some teams and players can be fatigued. It's a long trip to Poland and then back already with the Premier League in their mind. Yes, this could be tricky. You know, many changes for both sides against San Marino and Andorra. Interestingly enough, though, the Polish manager wanted to play Lewandowski in the first half to beat that powerful nation that is San Marino. Don't know why, you know. But anyway, they won 7-1 with Lewandowski in the pitch. Then after 45 minutes, he subbed him. Anyway, you know, Poland always seems to score. That's the good news for them. The last time they didn't score was against Italy in November 2020, but they only kept 1 clean sheet in 12 games. In fact, they conceded even against San Marino, winning 7-1. Lewandowski has scored in every game he played so far for club and country. He's gonna be on the pitch. Instead, in the reverse fixture, he wasn't. And, you know, England, what does England and Andorra tells you about? You know, 11 changes for Southgate. The spectators were more interested in paper planes flying on the pitch than watching the game. I mean, I'm in the camp of those that says these games, they shouldn't even be played. I think the small teams, they should play between themselves before going into the qualifiers, because we already have so many competitive football games. We really don't need England, Andorra, or San Marino, Poland in the international fixture. But these things aside, you know, nothing to take really from England's win against Andorra. I almost felt sorry for Patrick Bamford. He was given the debut, but Andorra were defending so deep, he couldn't find a space in behind, so in the end he could even score in his debut. England kept 9 clean sheets in the last 11 games, but this could be a tricky one because they face, you know, a great centre forward and a team that at home, as I said before, often scores. It can go both ways. It could be Poland taking the lead early, it could be England coming back and winning, or maybe shutting the opposition down in the first half and then finishing them off in the second. I can see goals 2.5, 2.25.
Then actually Lewandowski got injured against Andorra, so probably the supporters of Bayern Munich, they won't be happy with the Polish national coach, seeing Leva again on the pitch against a weak team as San Marino, as you mentioned. Then let's move on and analyze the group of my national team, Spain, but in this case we are going to pay attention to the Greece-Sweden game, because Sweden was able to beat Spain 2-1. After that game, they rested. Now they are second in the group with 9 points, but Spain have more points. So if they are able to beat Greece, which is always a tricky trip actually, they will overcome Luis Enrique's men on top of this group. Greece, Danny, I said it's always tricky to play against them, and actually Spain was unable to beat them, but they haven't won a single game yet in this qualification. 3 games, 3 draws, including the one against Kosovo.
Yeah, and they're basically out of the World Cup, I think, Greece. They took the lead against Kosovo, then they dropped back and back. They allowed Kosovo to control the game. In the end, they were punished in the very last minute by Muriqi. A very mediocre game, I would say, for Greece. Van Skip, the manager, chose to end the game with the 4 central defenders. He was defending his box desperately, so there was no pressure on the ball for Kosovo, and then in the end they pounced and scored. With Sweden, they can't allow it, because otherwise they'll be out of the game in the first half. Sweden were impressive against Spain. The movement up front, Isaac and Kulusevski combining, a lot of youth and power and strength there. Also Viktor Claesson from Krasnodar, one of the best performances of last round in these qualifiers. I think Sweden are on the way to the World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if they top the group. It is a team that showed us also the Euros how a good organized team works, but without forgetting, they got class up front, they got skills, and Forsberg as well is a very good creator of chances. They only lost 2 games, Sweden, in the last 13 games, so I don't think they're gonna go to Greece and lose. I don't even think they're gonna drop points. Sweden win 227.
Then our last game is in honor of Dani Fisichella, Italy, Lithuania in Group C. Italy, they drew against Switzerland. They also drew against Bulgaria in this international break. So, as you said, Dani, they are having a little bit of hangover after winning the Euros. I guess they will bounce back against Lithuania, 0 points for them. And also there is a Northern Ireland, Switzerland, interesting because Switzerland might drop points. So right now, Italy have 4 points advantage with Switzerland with 2 games in hand. This is a good opportunity to have even a bigger gap.
Absolutely. Italy, first of all, let's say they established the new record for unbeaten game, 36 games. So that's a world record equal to Brazil. They can do one more, of course, without losing against Lithuania, which obviously they will do. They won't lose against Lithuania. But against Switzerland, what happened? They missed a lot of chances. They were not ruthless in front of the goal. Jorginho missed the penalty. By the way, Jorginho, stop doing the step. I think the keepers understood. They don't have to move. And Sommer, by the way, is a great goalkeeper, and he read it perfectly. Man of the match, Sommer, of course. So that tells you Italy have been the better team. And the thing is that was a game that, had it been played in November when everyone was fit, Italy would have won comfortably. However, it is also true that Switzerland were missing 3 or 4 key players and starters. But Italy were the better team on the pitch. However, if you don't score, you don't win games. And it's the lack of sharpness, it's the lack of intensity sometimes that Italy has shown in this game, and also in the games against Bulgaria. So 2 draws. It's normal because often in September, Italy always suffers. That's because Serie A starts a couple of weeks after other leagues. So I think it takes time for the players to get fully fit. However, they play this one in Sassuolo. It's going to be a big occasion, small stadium. So I think the crowd is going to be enthusiastic behind them to see the champions of Europe. And they play a Lithuanian team that lost all the last 8 games. They are a poor team. They haven't got a great structure or stars. I saw them against Northern Ireland. At the back, they sometimes switch off. They conceded 4. So yes, Italy, I don't think they're going to be spectacular on this one. They're just going to try to do the job put that one to rest, have an ear of what's happening in Belfast against Northern Ireland, Switzerland, because then in November, after the Nations League final, there is a crunching game, which is Italy-Switzerland. So yes, Italy, let's say under 3.5 goals in the game. So Italy gonna do the job, under 3.5 goals, not a spectacular game, 1.9.
Then, Danny, thanks for analyzing the 10 more interesting games for us in this last round of fixtures in Europe. Tell us your ACCA to finish off this.
Okay, 5 games, 5 out of 10. Denmark to win the first half. France and Finland, low-scoring game, under 2.5. Serbia to take the lead in Ireland. Germany, clean sheet. And Italy to win both halves. Total odds, quite high. 21.74.
Then, Danny, a pleasure as always analyzing with you this international break. Now, time for Serie A after these games. See you very soon. Thanks.
Can't wait. Ciao, Edu. Ciao.
We have all the tips to bet in this middle of the week for the international break in the UEFA. Let me know what you think about Danny's tips, of course, in the comment section. And don't forget to click on the like, subscribe, and click on the bell to get notifications. Or if you prefer as well, you can listen to all our videos in our podcast. Thanks for watching and see you soon.